Hello. This is extremely humbling for me because I'm usually in the audience taking copious notes and running back and putting my priorities in and my KPIs in and my action plan. But I'm here today to share, hopefully, some words of wisdom. I have a very different slant on this program today. Mine is around how we show up as an individual. And so my goal for all of you today would be that you'd create some think time and you would consider how you show up. And when you know that, it's really hard to do it when it's the tough stuff and really easy to do when it's the easy stuff. So I'm going to share some stories with you today around my weapons, my tools for success that I pull upon and remind myself of when the going gets tough, because when it's good, it's easy to bring them forward. But can you bring them forward all the time, and do they serve you? And they've served me incredibly well. So let me tell you what my company is, why I got to stand up here, and what's all this all about. So a little bit about me, a little bit about my company, and then I'm gonna leap right in to share with you some tools that I have harnessed. So first, I have a company that protects people in the industrial workplace. Our mission is to partner with our clients so that we can bring every single worker home safely to their families every day after every shift. And we do that with our approach called safety care. So if you think of healthcare, it's a way to be healthy. Safety care is a way to be safe. It's an integrative approach to safety where we pull together products and safety programs. You can see the little icon around the product where there's products that need a service with it, prescriptive eyewear, boot programs, AEDs, things of that nature. We have an environmental health and safety consulting business. And lastly, our emerging area, which is safety technology. And this is just a few of the clients that we serve, just to give a little background as to what the company is all about. Now to turn to my surprising weapons that you will find are very unbusinesslike. And before I do that, you heard my introduction. You can tell I'm a busy person. But I wanted to also just say I'm a family person too. I'm going to tell you a lot of stories around these tools that I use. But I'm a mom of 3, so I try and be super mom. I have a very happy marriage. I try and be a great wife. And I try and be a great team leader to my company. And I took over a family business. That is my dad in the middle there, passing me the baton, wishing me luck, and not handing over a most pristine business at that time. So that began the beginning of my journey of figuring out what were my weapons to battle the tough challenges of business. And because it's a family business, I am fortunate to be partnered up with my sister, and she's up on the top photo there. So that's my story in terms of family, and it's busy. I've got a sailor and a soccer player and a basketball player and a not-for-profit, and so you get the idea that it can get pretty crazy. So I have weapons. Here they go. These are all kinds of crazy things that have happened to me. I am not going to tell you all of them. You can ask me about certain ones if I don't cover it, but this slide deck could go on for hours, but I'm going to highlight just a few. So I wanted to have a business that had a great mission, that if we grew and when we grew, we would do good for the world. I'll tell you that story, I promise. And I really wanted to make a difference. And not everyone agreed with me to getting to that place of impacting lives. The stats were out just a few years ago saying that injuries in the workplace had actually gone up, and they've continued to go up, And we would sit around tables and I would say, look, product alone is not going to solve this problem. And I seem to have been the only one in the room thinking that was the case. And I never gave up on what I believed was necessary for our organization if we were going to make a difference in people's lives. And then in fact, I did whatever I needed to do by keeping myself focused on what I believed in and just kept working towards making the shift that was necessary to drive injuries out of the workplace, which is now what you see as safety care. A second story for you, that name-calling thing. So, I won't say bad words today. You'll just know what it was. Early on, I show up to my family's business, and I am the only woman in the room at the time. That's not the case now. And a discussion was happening about having a mission-oriented organization. We were very much a product company at the time. We even had toilet paper in our warehouse and wires and cables, and I don't really know what they were. And I was pretty passionate about the fact that we should have a strong mission about where we were going. Apparently, someone in the room didn't agree with me, and so he called me a name. And nothing was really done about it. And I let it be. I wasn't righteous about it. I just moved on. But I realized that nothing I was going to say was going to have this person hear me. There was no way. If he's name-calling me in a meeting, what's the chance that he's ever going to be able to hear what I have to say? But I believed in what I thought the organization needed to do. So ego aside, and quite frankly, I don't have a very big ego to begin with, but ego aside, I thought about what did I need to do to get this point across and get this goal accomplished. I believed it was the right thing to do for the organization, and I wasn't going to give up. And so I found another way to accomplish my goal by finding an ally that I could see a little crack in the armor. He liked the idea, and I continued to serve up rationale and reasoning and facts and figures around why this would be a good thing for the organization, because I believed that this would take us in a great direction. So my first weapon is belief. If I believe it, and I believe that it is the right thing for the organization, for my life, for whatever, I will do whatever it takes to get to the finish line. And I think an important piece there is to put the ego aside and focus on what really needs to happen and how I need to get there. And that's how I show up. I show up knowing I can be influenced, surely, and I can change my belief. But once I have my eyes set on something, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Another story, before we move on to my next weapon, is when I took over the business, we were in really dire straits. And the bank and I were having a daily love affair until I could get this thing back on track. And I just kept saying to the bank, I believe I can do this. I will talk to you each day, and then each week, and then each month, and I will turn this around. And I'd walk them through how and why. And I believed in myself, I believed in where we were going, and I believed in the vision. I continued to articulate that every day to anyone that needed to hear it and anyone that would listen. And through all of that, and as you saw on the slide prior, there was lots of things that I had to be confronted with. I had a CFO that had been stealing, and then he called 7 states that came and did a sales and use tax audit on us, which of course we were not in compliance with because he was the CFO. It was endless stories of things that I had to overcome. And I share them with you so candidly because I'm sure you're all sitting there saying, I know my story. I know my heartache. I know the thing I had to overcome. How did I handle it? What did I do? And if you like this tool, steal it, use it. And if you don't, find your own. And through all of that, because I believed and stayed focused on the finish line, Arbill has really had a nice run. And we can thank you. So I definitely could sit here and tell you lots of great stories, because we have many of them. And I will tell you a few of them on my next weapon. But the point is that it's through the hard stuff that you learn. And I look at them always as lessons around what next do I have to do versus a stage of fear. So my next tool is one that I learned in 2009. Because although in 2008, his world collapses, in 2009, my world collapsed. And you just might have seen that dip there. So we're finally getting the engines going. I take over in 2005, and we're really building momentum, and we're growing, and I've had to change out the team and do all this stuff, and things are going, and manufacturing starts to collapse in the beginning of 2009. And our clients at the time were Caterpillar and Harley-Davidson, and they're laying off villages of people. And so my world was under siege. We were protecting all of these people. And for me, at the time, I was pregnant with my third child. And it was such a dark time. I was heading into the office one day. I knew we were doing a furlough. We had to stop the 401k match. And I had to lay off 22% of our workforce. It was a bad, dark day. And I had this little thing growing inside of me. And I realized that day driving in, and it was a rainy day. I thought to myself, I have got to find something to be grateful for. Otherwise, I'm going to have a very sick child, because I truly believed that whatever you thought and manifested would show up in this child. Whatever your beliefs might be, those were mine. And I thought, oh, this is just going to be terrible. And I drove in that day, and I thought, I have got to find ways to be grateful through this experience, grateful for the relationships that I've had, grateful for the loyalty that people are bestowing. And at that particular moment, it was pouring rain, and I thought, well, I'm grateful that the flowers will look great next week once the rain stops. And that really began my journey of gratitude. And through gratitude that day, I had wonderful transactions with people that I probably wouldn't have had if I did not bring that tool forward. I am unbelievably grateful to my team. And we've all talked about that today, how meaningful that is. I try and tell them all the time, as much as I can, how grateful I am for the work that they do, for how they participate, and how they get in that foxhole with me. And I've had to put them in the foxhole a couple of times. And I am very, very appreciative of their minds, of their dedication, and of their shared passion for the mission. I have two of them here today, so thank you. So with the gratitude, I have a big gratitude to Patrick. Patrick and I have a lunch back in March of 2015, and I say to him, something's not right. We're growing, but our margins are eroding, and I just do not think our clients are valuing us in the way that they should. And I keep talking about this idea that we've got to pivot away from product, but I just cannot get anyone to get on my gravy train. And I was so grateful for the dinner we had together, and he told me, we're going to do this, Julie. We're going to get a meeting together. You're going to bring outside people in, because we're not going to be able to convince them, just you and I. So let's get some other smart people in the room. And on 7/7/2015 is when Safety Care was originated, in much great thanks and gratitude to Patrick. So this is a very important weapon. My final weapon is the most unlikely thing you're probably expecting me to talk about, although I'm probably pushing boundaries at this point anyway. But this is the one that I think is the most meaningful every single day because it's energy in every transaction. I bring this weapon forward all of the time, even yesterday. I bring it forward in every moment. But I think it is very important that we bring love into every transaction that we have. In today's society, it feels so much like win-lose all the time, win-lose all the time. You are wrong, I am right. Where does that get us? And just yesterday, I could give you a million examples, but just yesterday, we get on the phone, Denny and I, and immediately there's the desire to cast blame. And so I just purely say, it's our fault. It's our fault. How do we move forward? Because I care deeply about this situation. I know you do. Let's move forward with conviction around where we want to go, because I'm already giving you the benefit of the doubt. Can you give me some compassion in return and some empathy in return for the situation? And just like that, the negative he was throwing at me, that you're wrong and you lose, suddenly became, let's do this thing together. This is great. And that night he sends me an email, I'm coming in December, we're having a celebratory dinner, right? So, and it goes on from there. There are so many stories when I live inside of a foundry, male-dominated industry, and a society that we're all in, filled with fear and wrongs and rights. And love changes all of that. When you can come forward with that kind of understanding and empathy and giving people the benefit of the doubt. I gave that story because I'm sure you have many of them where there's this right, wrong. What does that matter? Where does that take us? So this has been a big one for me, the love piece, and I'm deeply in love with my family. I am deeply in love with the mission of Arbill and what we want to accomplish. We want to make the world safer. We love our customers. We are having a tremendous impact on their workplaces. Brings me so much joy to hear their excitement about the changes that we're doing inside their workplaces to drive injuries down. So like Dan did earlier, you can link in with me, Julie Copeland, and I'm happy to make anybody out there safer. So those are my weapons. And my designer who put this together for me has a final quote that I'll share with you that he found that he thought was great when he saw me pull this whole thing together. But this image, before I conclude, is to showcase to you how love is an energetic force. And when someone, I keep doing this, but when someone sends you a negative, how you can turn that into a positive and raise them up. That truly, I think you would share with me this belief that people want to bring their best self forward all the time. They lose themselves for a moment, but if you can help raise them back up with love, this entire universe would be better if we started to talk in those ways. But start bit by bit. So I hope you think about your own values that you'd bring forward every day. If you like any of mine, steal them. Go use them, please. But these are my 3. They've helped me have great success. I'm going to carry them with me every day and all the time. And here is the last quote I'll leave for all of you to read. Thank you so much.